listening live to the Two Extreme Horror Show. I'm broadcasting to you from the Pine Hills Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida, and I'm in the control room now with a live feed coming from some undisclosed location, I believe, in central Wisconsin. That means I have the one and only real Dr. V with me tonight, covering Night School from 1981, a cult slasher film starring a young Rachel Ward. Doctor, are you there?
As much as it can be, yes.
Oh,
With
that's
this
the same.
pandemic, I've been really busy. People dying, spirits to catch, you know,
Alrighty then.
and
And
spirits to
what
drink.
happens when you catch them? What do you do?
I drink them, spirits, man.
Alrighty
You don't drink
then.
beer?
Well, I'm a teotalitarian or whatever the hell it's called. I live pretty clean. I'm straight edge, sir. But unlike the straight edge superstar who's in another really bad movie on Netflix to be talked about perhaps later, the straight edge I want to refer to and talk about is Night School with Rachel Ward from 1981. So I tweeted out a little while ago an old file that somebody had posted over here in Pine Hills, Florida. One of the two drive-in theaters. There was the Rymar on the north side, and on the south side of Pine Hills, there was the Pine Hills Drive-In Theater. And it had a Chuck Norris movie on there from the early 80s, one that we had covered previously on our current show, the Two Extreme Horror Show, and that would be Silent Rage. And it's kind of like a horror film, and it's kind of neat. And it just made me think of the early 80s and how horror movies themselves, before they went full slasher, would try different things out, and I really enjoyed it. So this film is not very popular. It literally is a cult classic, and it's definitely a slasher film. But like I said, it's got a young Richard Ward in it and absolutely nobody else, and it's filmed in Boston, and it's a super low budget kind of film. But it's got, I think, Italian overtones to it, which I wanted to bring up for our serious horror fans. So, Doctor, throwing it over to you for a moment for our initial thoughts. I believe you said you hadn't seen this film before, but you wanted to give it a shout and try it out. So, what made you want to do that?
Well, you know me. I don't really don't like blood, guts, and gore unless it's like a dark comedy, like this, But this was actually basically your cheerleader slashers, You got the hot babes getting killed by someone stalking with the blade. Uh, it's also, but see, I no, see, I wasn't sure if it was gonna be like the cheesy, okay, it's just predictable. It was just just bogus. It actually turned out to be a pretty decent movie.
It's not bad.
Uh,
It's not bad at all.
like I my first time watching it, I didn't know what to expect. Obviously, someone's going around beheading people. You know, girls are losing their heads over guys, but
Yeah, that never
no,
happens anymore. I mean, come on.
right? No, but I like this movie because it was suspense. Uh, just the way how it just the whole it was set up. If and This is 1981. We're still in the kind of the serious drama stuff, as far as like the late 70s.
Hmm.
It hasn't really gone over to like gratuitous. Just we have like you know you'd see like you have there's so much gore, but that's all it is because they don't have plot. They don't have actually have a storyline. They just throw kills and kills and kills and randomly. Where this one actually was actually had a reason and why, and the plot twist at the end because who they want is this is a movie that makes you think. This is kind of like how they described in their other movie we watched, Scream, the tropes. It's like certain person does this, like, well, he must be the killer. Well, we don't know because this person could be it. So this is one of those movies where it makes you think, and I enjoy movies like this. I don't like the ones where oh, cool, that person's the killer, and it ruins the whole movie for me.
Yeah, this isn't a film that you laugh at the people getting killed like you do in a lot of really bad slashers that might be entertaining that
I
you could
I,
watch. This one you're watching, and it's
I
actually
felt
not a big
bad.
body count. Yeah, exactly. You're like, well, they didn't really deserve it. And that makes it
Yeah,
a little more serious and dark and sinister. And like I say, there's a lot of blood and there's a lot of graphic stuff, but really it's the psycho treatment where you don't necessarily see a lot of it happening. You see some stuff, but like I say, it's got that Italian style to it where some scenes are just very colorful, and the way the shots are, they're really close up on the frames, and it's just real stylistic the way they would film something like a scene we'll talk about towards the end having to do with the headmistress. But yeah, to me, I agree with you. I think this film is a little bit better than your standard slasher fare. Rachel Ward, I believe it's her first film. She would go on to do Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, which eventually we'll cover. That's a great, great film with Steve Martin. I had a crush on her. She was my second crush after Olivia Newton-John when it comes to movies. So at this point, I hadn't actually seen this movie in probably 20, 30 years. And to see her in it, and she's plays a prominent role, but she's not, I would say, a lead actor. It's really about this movie actually is about a lot of things. Let's transition to the first act and talk about some of the themes that we've talked about a little bit offline when we talk about T.J. Hooker. I always joke about T.J. Hooker and how I was a big fan of that show and a lot of buddy cop shows, and really the hardcore ones like Starsky and Hutch where they would have a bromance. And I know you're starting to watch that show in the 70s. They became a little glamorized in the 80s and it would take on kind of a bit of a silly tone to it, and that's okay. I mean, to me, I still think some shows are good and silly, but it's what you like and what you enjoy. And I didn't really watch Starsky and Hutch that much, so like I say, for me it was T.J. Hooker and then Spencer for Hire and some others, The Equalizer, obviously. But to me, the one thing I would say that this movie, Night School, does a very good job at, especially if you grew up watching a lot of these shows, is that you get a lot of the generic ways of you would see a cop acting in 80s. So in here, you've got perhaps what I would consider to be one of the most incompetent cops of all time, because he goes around badgering people. He doesn't assign anybody to like follow people. He just walks down corridors. People hand him folders with information. It's one of those kind of things. He's kind of annoying. He's not really smart. He just seems like a prick early on, but not cool enough to be a dude bro or a douchebag. And frankly, nothing gets done. And at the very end, he kind of sort of stumbles his way, I think, to the solution, and technically will almost pay the price for it, which is the very last scene. But again, you see him with a partner who's supposed to be, I guess, a character to him, who's kind of annoying and forgettable. So this movie really isn't about that. I mean, at one point he's even like got his arm on, or his hand grabbing the a fistful of shirt of somebody, basically trying to intimidate him. I'm like, yeah, T.J. Hooker would do that, but you're not T.J. Hooker. You're not cool enough where you can get away with it. You're not Shatner. But thankfully, this movie is a lot better when the cop is not on the screen, and there's a lot of beautiful women in Boston at a night school where they're going to learn, and you've got this really dopey, stupid, slightly annoying, but very well cast, I think,
Well,
professor who's obviously
you
sleeping with
should
lots of students.
you should point out this is a school for women only. So
Correct. Yes.
so
And the
when you say
headmistress has a firm
yeah,
hand on what happens in there, and so she's very territorial. She's a queen bee type character, but you don't see much about her early on. So yeah, the first scene.
and I like.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I like how they set up the professor to be a slime ball. So that's your first instinct is like, when people are getting killed, is like they want you to target him. You know, they don't really necessarily know if he's the killer or not, but they're already setting up somebody like that. That playing minds with you. Like, I gives you like, is this person? It's like because yeah, like you said, like, it sets up the scene where they're yeah. The first kill is like the girl in the merry-go-round. Like
The
this is before
teacher's
you even meet.
Anne.
Yeah, yeah. This is the first murder before we even meet anybody at the school at all,
Right.
because that's what leads them to the school. And I thought it was funny. Like the guy shows up, the killer gets out this dirt bike. He's got a black motorcycle helmet on. It's dark enough so you can't see him. So he's got the black leather jacket, the black pants. It's like, and then
It's
he's
quite time
holding like a
cop-ish almost.
like a he's got one of those. It's a knife, but it's a boomerang knife, kind of like those ones
it's
like
that.
where it's
It's
kind of
that. I don't
bent
know if I'm
down.
pronouncing it right. It's that. I used to always call it a kukuri, but I don't think that's the right name. I think it's a kukri or something. But it's a that curved knife that I think
But
they used in like Turkey or somewhere. Yeah, Damascus
like
steel.
literally, you don't. And like I said, you kind of feel bad for these people because like the first person he kills is this teacher who just like after school. It's probably and it's late and she's just sitting on the merry-go-round still going because the last kid left, and he shows up. He starts spinning the thing like the merry-go-round really fast, and I'm thinking like, okay, we're going to never get no because now they're throwing us up. And I'm saying, look, this person must obviously really strong because for how fast she was moving on the thing, and he's like pulling the blade down because she has to keep dunking her head down, otherwise he's going to chop her head off,
Yeah.
But eventually, how they shut the. She's going faster and faster. He's like, stop, stop, don't, let me go. And like he basically raises the blade up and that's all you see is it goes down, and then it goes to the next scene. It's like so you don't see exactly what happened. It cut off the gore, so these are imagination too. So at this point, we don't know if she's been beheaded or what. You know,
Yeah.
you just know that he basically took the knife. But yeah, like this movie, like they set up like mind tricks with you. It's like, okay, is this person it? It's kind of like the movie Identity. It's like, okay, this person could be this, this could be
Hmm.
this, but why is this person here? Why, what's the point of this person? Uh, like the diner thing. It's like that they're just totally just messing with your head. Um,
Well, one thing that's good about the movie is that obviously, like I say, it's filmed there, and so you get that kind of gritty feel when a lot of shows would be filmed, in suburbs of big cities and whatnot too, not just like I say on the Universal backlot. And what I like about it is that with this first kill, you get the killer coming off the bike, so of course you don't know the identity. And again, this is one of those little things that you saw in certain shows back in the day, but it's like so comical to me where um, you see the killers got the I don't know if they were boots, they look like dress shoes to me, walking up before the knife, and like you said, the stylized kill. And then we meet the cop, and there was another killing earlier, and then this girl's getting killed, and then he finds out it's at the school, so he goes to see the professor, who's like, what's the meaning of this coming in the middle of my lecture, which is like 10 girls in a classroom, and they're all hot in a hot liberal New England Eastern kind of USA sort of vibe, just real pretty actually. You see Rachel Ward in the classroom, but it's not really on her too much because it turns out she's like his assistant. So the guy talks to him. You can tell this cop's clueless, and so you're like, okay, everything's setting up for what it's supposed to be. And then, of course, you get the diner that you're talking about, and you see some people. And what I like here is that you're going to come back to the diner later, so it's not like it's just a one-off or it's product placement because they paid a lot of money to be in the movie. It's a legitimate point to it. Um, and let me just say this about Rachel Ward. For me, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. She had this very, I think, classic old school movie star kind of quality look to her. She's pretty and beautiful. She's a combination, but her voice, that huskiness and that accent. She's Australian, but it's maybe it has something to do with the program I had with Olivia Newton-John being British but growing up in Australia or whatever it is. I mean, I don't know, but I'm looking at this going, uh-oh, this guy's killing really beautiful women. He's not killing, sluts, or he's not killing
well,
women that are just reprehensible where you go, yeah, that bitch deserves it, or you're mad, or whatever like that, or oh, they're stupid, I can't
uh,
wait till they die. It's not like that here.
no, I love that they bring it in like his partner. His partner is also antagonist. He's kind of a skis big cop. He's been there for 15 years. He's like, well, there's no, we're supposed to do this, and he's like, the procedure we're supposed to do. And he's like, and the main cop, he's like, I don't care, I'll do what I want. It's just like, yeah, it is kind of like poor policemanship. And you see, especially towards the end of the movie, it's like what? It's like, um, but I like how his partner is like is like he basically like is more of a cop than he is, and but also he's kind of comes off a jerk. So he's harassing this peeping tom that's been that followed Rachel Ward home when
Hmm.
and she's freaking out. But apparently he's also a
He's a
flasher. He
panty
has a record,
sniffer. Yeah.
so they think that he also works at the diner. I think he worked. Yeah, he works as a busboy, but he's also kind of like slow. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, not only he's slow, but he's also peeping tom. Like, what are you trying to say here, movie? It's like it's a weird combination.
It's just a red herring to drag us through a little bit here because
It is.
yeah, I mean, because obviously, they don't even think to follow him or whatever they do, and they harass him. I'm like, really? But here's an interesting point, or a point I think that's interesting that I'm putting on the movie. And I don't know how intentional it was. I'd mentioned before when we talked about some Netflix review shows. I'd mentioned Mindhunter on there. It was really interesting to me, the 2 seasons of it, because it's set in the late '70s, early '80s, when profiling in the FBI actually started to become a process that would get used as opposed to brute force detective work, which they both have their applications. And back then, computing power certainly wasn't as big as it is today, so things may be a little different. And in here, what's interesting is there's a lot of talk about trying to profile it, and the lead cop, Austin's his name. He's like, hey, it's always around water that this chick's head was falling in a thing of water, her, and what does it have to do with it? And he's talking to the professor of anthropology, and so you can tell that there's some going to be some relationship because the professor knows some of these things, and he always talks about humans and their primal nature. So it's surprising that he won't kill again because it's too easy, and just stupid stuff or whatever. So again, it comes down to the fact that he was involved with somebody, one of his students. They talk to her. Of course, she's the next one that's going to get whacked, and they find like her head like in the aquarium in the city aquarium or whatever. But of course, then you of course meet his assistant, who is Rachel Ward, Eleanor, and it's just it's really is a setup of characters. And God, I hate to make it sound like this is a well-written, great, intellectually smart movie, but like I say, it's not a slasher film in the sense that it's you're running around like Friday the 13th and just whacking everybody. Oh yeah, because crazy
No.
mom's son died. It's not. There's you see a lot of characters early on. There's just a few deaths, and they follow an order. So you're going, okay, what's the pattern to him? Because he keeps decapitating them and submerging their head in water. And yes, there will be a reason for it. So yeah, I think that was pretty interesting about it because again they hit some of the different spots there around Harvard, around there I believe is the area that they filmed it in and where it's supposed to be taking place. So you definitely get the feel of the city in here, especially when he goes in and he kills this second girl, Kim or whatever, and decapitates her, and she's running around in her towel and everything. So we're about halfway through the film, and again, only a few kills, and it's moved around at a pretty brisk pace. So at this point, Doctor, what is it that you're thinking about the movie?
After the second or third kill, and
Mm-hmm.
then they talk about the cook, where the cook, her head's in the pot, and then I thought right there, like they're like, well, okay, she's as far as people running in heels or even like just doing stupid things, like the waitress. She's short. I said she's trying to run up and get the door. I'm like, first of all, like, why would you do that? If you know you're short, you can't. You have a hard time reaching it. Apparently, she's freaking out. She's not thinking. She runs to the back door, but I'm thinking, I would have grabbed a knife. You're in a freaking like diner. There's knives in the diner. You can, he's got a knife. Well, guess what? You can get a knife too, and don't think twice about it.
Well,
Or hot
let's talk
water.
about this scene because this scene I think is important because there's a scene, another scene before this that I think adds into it, and at the end of the movie I went, oh, okay, I get it. So let's back up a little bit. There's a scene where after this second woman Kim's been killed and you've met everybody, you see her Eleanor, the assistant in the diner, Rachel Ward character, and the waitress is talking to her saying, oh, all those pretty women would sleep with him. Well, I guess I can't blame them. I probably would give him around too. And she's just talking to him like a girl. And there's a couple of dudes in there who like either I guess beef stew, we'll say, that they're flirting with her, and that's what would happen in diners back in the days. People weren't offended; they did it, and it wasn't a big deal. But what was neat, and again we have the red herring with the slow guy, is that Rachel Ward's character after going home and she's after all creeped out, she hops in the shower. You kind of get the psycho treatment where somebody's behind her. And of course, the thing opens up, she screams, and it's the professor. So we know the professor's currently stooping her. And it gets a little weird here because I didn't understand what that was going on, where he humps in the shower with her after she yells at him. So of course she's scared, so she's sexually excited, and she stands in there, and he
Mhm.
hops in there. And I'm joking when I say this because I'm going, well, you might think the professor's the killer because he's got, it looks like this little tiny jar of, it looks like blood or body parts or smoothed out stuff or something was run through a meat grinder, and he's spreading it all over her body. And I'm jokingly referring to it as strawberry sauce or salsa. And maybe I missed something in
Jam.
there the way it is jam, yeah, because he's
It,
rubbing it
it,
all
it looked
over
like
her.
fake.
Yeah, it's
Didn't it look like fake blood?
yeah, and so I'm not sure what it is or what it was supposed to be because he was just going to meet her and have her romp in the hay. But they're
Like
standing in the
play.
shower, and it's just kind of a creepy scene to me. I mean, she's beautiful, she's gorgeous, but he was rubbing it over, and I thought what was supposed to be like a symbol or pattern. So I'm like, oh, is that going to be something we're supposed to look for? But no. So I was guess at this point I was reading too much into it.
It's just two history nerds having fun, having sex with like clay or body paint. That's what it reminded of me. I was like, okay, we get to see Rachel Ward's asshole, which is the benefit of it though. So
Again, very very good looking woman, very young in here and all that, especially in the shower. And this is what I mean. There wasn't this sense of, oh, let me flash boobs for the sake of flashing boobs. It was, no, she's taking a shower. You're going to see it. You're going to see an older man having relations with somebody that he's currently involved with, and it's not like he's married or she's involved with anybody. So there's none of this, oh, lifetime movie drama cheating on people nonsense. It's young, old, May September sort of relationship as they call it, and those things exist. So it's not like they don't happen in real life. So you're seeing what would happen. But yeah, so to kind of catch up, going back to the scene you were just talking about in the diner, it turns out that the killer's going after the waitress in there, the one that had mentioned um, to Eleanor that hey, I would have her up in the hay too with him because he's cute and everything, and they're just doing girl talk. But killer comes in and she tries to escape, and then what happens is the next day those two dudes are having a beef stew. They're like regulars, always flirting with her. She's not in there. The owner comes in, pours them a stew, and he has this disgusting, and this is so effective, it's so cheap to do, but it's so effective. We kind of know what
ugh.
happens, but we don't see it. He pulls out this entire chunk of knotted hair, not like one or two strands or anything, and it's just disgusting because I think we've all had that happen to us, and it just makes you want to vomit. So the guy goes in the
Well,
back and he's pouring the beef stew out, and I don't know, I was creeped out just by the way the stew looked and it was pouring. It's like, oh, I
well,
guess I got to find the
well,
stock, and then he finds
well.
out, it's in the bathwater.
When he was going, I knew right away because like remember the first head was in a bucket of water.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, oh, is the head inside the stew? That's
No,
my
and that's
first
too
thing, and I'm
obvious. We expected it as watchers, but they didn't do that. That's what I liked. And
like,
then they open up the refrigerator, and remember how he's looking through all the meat and pulling stuff, and you're like, oh, it's going to be right behind that jump scare. It wasn't. The melons that come
no,
off the
it was
top
it
of the
was
refrigerator, reminding you of skull or heads or whatever. It's not that. No jump scares. There's no sharp music. He's just draining the water out of the sink, and then you kind of start to see a bunch of the person's hair, but then that's it. You don't actually see the heads that are decapitated. That's what's cool about
uh
what they're doing.
you see you see the face in the water as he drains the water
Yeah,
out of the sink.
yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
it's here's the thing. At this point, like I say, not too many kills. They're stylized when they do them, and it turns out that, of course, everybody that he's slept with is getting killed. So the emphasis becomes on keeping Eleanor safe. So there's a really kind of cool scene, I think, in here that leads up into the key scene of the movie where the two cops are going and they're talking about stuff, and they're walking on a pier somewhere, and they're getting something from a vendor, so something to eat and something to drink. And that's what I loved about this scene is that you don't see that in buddy cop things today. I always joke about Romano, T.J. Hooker's partner in T.J. Hooker with Shatner. Early on, he gets papaya juice and makes a big deal out of eating healthy, and that's their little shtick where somebody's always eating something or having to get a cup of coffee or don't spill it, Junior. And in here, the cops are getting food and they're discussing the case. And damn it, that's what I want to see when cops are involved on screen. I want to see them sitting there talking about the case over buying food from a vendor because they're too busy. They can't afford the time to sit down and do it. That makes me think that real cop work is getting done. So something about cops and food I thought's kind of silly and dumb and fun, but it turns out that they end up having an argument. Um, uh, the assistant and the professor, and they're sitting down. She pulls out the pregnancy card with them. And then that to me is when everything clicks. She's like, I've been pregnant for about 3 months. You're not happy. He's like, no, I'm just surprised. And she's like, I'm not aborting the baby. And he's like, I wasn't saying anything about it. So to have that on screen 40 years ago is kind of a big deal. What did you think about this as all this was starting to come across here in the third act?
well, before as far as this talking about the baby and stuff, and I was like, the fact that she was not leaving him, even though there's clear signs he's cheating on him, as I was like, okay, this girl is either the most stupidest girl ever, or this is the most stupidest written character ever. Um, at this point, and I'm thinking right there because I'm like, dude, they want me to think that this dude like is the professor is the freaking killer because three of his or two of his students have died. Not only he has a history of sleeping around with other people, and then the waitress, who he kind of flirted with, she's dead now. It's like, okay, they're hinting at this, but I'm like, are they really hinting at this person, or is it someone else? Like, am I gonna get a twist out of this?
Right.
Because I that's those are my favorite movies. So it's like they make you think it's like okay, well it's got to be this person. Like, well, no, that person's a red herring, and so is that person. So who is it then? I kind of idea of who it was, um, but it wasn't until like the towards the final act I kind of figured out who it was because I was like, you see something in the movie and it clicks with you. It's like, wait, okay, now I know what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah. And so what makes it pretty good too is they throw one more little red herring in there. And they've had a few shots of the we would just basically say back in the day, bitchy headmistress of the school. But she's firm. She's not, the C word or anything like that. She knows what's going on, and she doesn't like the fact this guy's sleeping with these female students and taking advantage of them. And what's realistic about this, I think, is the fact that, well again, one, the guy is not manipulating these women. This is a smart school. It's not a dumb dumb school. So it's one of those artsy fartsy relationships where attracted to the way that he makes me feel and all that crap. But also, the headmistress who found out about it is basically going to get him fired and all that too. The kind of side plot is here she basically takes one of the students and talks to him about the professor and comforts her or whatever like that. But then we find out, and this is one of the last kills of the movie, where the headmistress actually, of course, is lesbian, and had brought the girl she was comforting to her house, and they're laying in bed, and she's like, you're comfortable, with this and all that too, because she's an older person seducing a younger student, and she's just a lesbian and wanted it for herself. So there's that jealousy factor too, sexually speaking. Not just the man's getting all the women; he's taking away, my people to hunt from. So I found that kind of distasteful in a very positive way as far as adding to the film, because they show her there, and she's older. She has a decent body, and she's dressed nicely, but there's a nice shot in here where there's a phone call, and then we're looking through the doorway at her standing at one of the old, of course, rotary phones on a table standing up, and then she looks at the door, which would be like facing us on the screen, and she's like, oh no, and the door closes. And right then and there I thought, okay, it's like the Scream thing, where at the beginning of Scream, where the body is hung up on a tree. You're like, one person can't do that quick. It's unrealistic. It takes your brain out of it, is what made me think. And then here, well, how does she get a call? Her would-be lovers in the other room, and then the door closes facing us. So that had to be a two-person job. Hey, call this person at this time, then I'll kill this person. So maybe go, okay, it's got to be the doctor and the assistant because they must be working in tandem, or there's their second one. And of course, she gets killed, and then the would-be lover in bed, finds the head in the toilet or whatever like that, and gets kind of whacked. And again, we're here pretty much at the end of the movie. They run back to the.
Well,
Go ahead.
the other thing too is at this point, you see that the professor he rides this little like dirt bike, which he just leaves the keys in, so anybody can just take his bike and frame him if they want to, or it is him. You don't know. But I thought that was weird. It's like, why would you leave a motorcycle outside? You drive in, you turn it on, and you leave the key in, and you walk in. It's like, first of all, someone's gonna steal your bike.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's Boston. I mean, of course
oh.
someone's going to steal it. It's not Orlando where there's no crime. Well, they get to the
Right?
professor's home, and you'd seen a little bit of when the detective was talking to the professor earlier on in the scene. You had seen the assistant Rachel Ward just kind of making coffee in the background. You see her listening to stuff and all that, and she's upset. But you saw pictures of like what he had in his slides during his lecture and at home, and you see a bunch of these like headhunter skulls where they talk about what's going on and everything. And it's just one of those things. You picked up artifacts over a lifetime of travel and being an educated type person. But the thing about this is that you find out that the killer comes home to this place, and it's not the professor, it's his assistant. And his assistant is basically saying, I'm pregnant. And she basically just goes and tells him straight up, I'm going to, take care of anybody anyway. Family is the strongest thing that there is. I'm not going to let anything like that, come between us. And it's like, you know what? That makes sense. And what's cool is the doctor gets this look on his face like, ah, shit. Why did I get the crazy one? Because before we played the pregnancy card. There wasn't like, you sure it's mine, or need to go get tested. None of that stuff. He just believes it and takes it at face value. And Then of course the police are approaching. The killer rides off on a motorcycle, and then of course we find out that when the motorcycle gets hit by a car, what we see, knowing the killer is the woman, it ends up being the professor. And then they have the funeral, and then there's a little scene at the end, or two scenes, I guess, at the end. What did you think of this ending here?
Well, now that you spoiled the whole entire movie for anybody who want to should want to
Hell
watch it,
yeah, that's right.
uh, the ending I thought it was dumb because the cop just let her go, even though he knew that she was the killer. He even mentions her at the funeral, and he goes to his car and drives away. I'm like, well, gee, now I know you can't trust cops in that city, that fictional city,
Well,
because that was
to
ridiculous.
your point, I think that's quite valid, and it was disappointing to me because the cop's buddy was like, "Hey, this is easy. It just wraps up the case," and he's convinced it's the female. So yeah, they
Which
have
was such a letdown. He says that, and then and just nothing.
yeah.
Even
And
though he knows, yeah, it's
it
like, what the heck was this crap
cuts
ending?
to the funeral, and she's walking back, and as she passes by the cop says, "Hey, there won't be any more rituals, right?" Because she had explained about how, putting the
Yeah,
heads in
it's,
water
it's,
allows the souls, blah blah blah. We get the whole intellectual nonsense stuff,
well,
and
he
she's
didn't
like,
say
"Nope,
ritual. He said the way he said it, won't be any more ceremonies
that's it, that's it, yep,
because a funeral, ceremony, there'll be any more.
yeah." I mean, yeah. So he knows. He just didn't, I guess, have any proof. But
He's a cop. He can make proof.
that's true. She was gonna move back home to England because she
Remember,
was.
he said that when he broke into the professor's eye, he's
He
like,
did
oh,
break
he's like,
in
oh,
illegally. Absolutely, he did. Yeah, that was the thing.
yeah.
He
So
strong
why
armed
would
somebody.
uh,
But then the
drives you
well, the
nuts?
the version I saw, the very last scene was him getting into his car. The killer
Yep.
pops up in the back seat to slit his throat, and it's his buddy fooling with him, and then they roll the credits. And like, this is such a stupid bad ending. It didn't piss me off like I was upset at it because the good part of the story is, okay, we might know what's going to happen. We might make an educated guess. But you said it several times, Doctor, and I'm going to go back to it because I think that's the actual strength of this movie. It's not the stylized part to it, which I personally like and will watch a film for it, even if it sucks. It's the fact that they try to make you guess in a couple of different ways, and everything has its course, its purpose for it. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of crap for crap's sake. It feels like it's a little bit better than your typical average slasher film. And slasher is a very generic one. Oh, there's a killer going on killing people. We don't need to know why. It's probably something dumb, stupid. Let's see how creative we can be with the kills as things devolved in the 80s too. I actually thought this was, somewhat psychological with it, and I think that makes it, like I say, rise above to it. So I think it's a good watch. It's one of those cult classics that not a lot of people saw. It came on a couple times, I think, on HBO back in the day as a kid. I remember this is one that I go, oh, I think I've seen this with Rachel Ward because I always tried to see stuff she was in. And I went back and I saw it and I go, man, I just don't
Mhm.
think that I did. So it was kind of a first watch for me. So that being said, I would recommend it if you like this sort of thing. Absolutely. There's much worse out there and much worse that will piss you off. This I thought was a very solid watch. A bit of a dumb cop, some 80s stupid stuff. Not the greatest ending in the world, but overall a pretty stylistic film. I somewhat enjoyed it. What about you?
Well, I would recommend watching it if you haven't listened to this review at all, because you don't know the ending and it ruins it for you.
Well, I think it becomes a lot more obvious when you go back to watch them, what's going on with it, and it makes sense because, you don't want a scorned woman coming after you, especially with the kind of curved knife she had. She meant business.
It just proves that women are crazy, and you don't want to stick you know your stuff into crazy, because this is what happens. But at least she was devoted, though. That's one good thing. She is devoted. You know,
She's not
can't say that.
hopelessly devoted to him like Olivia Newton-John may have been, but I'm often thinking of the
Oh,
great Ted
oh,
Nugent song
she
"Heads Will
killed. She killed
Roll."
for him. Of course,
What?
she's devoted to him. She killed for him. She was devoted to him. She hung on his every word.
It's throwing in the funnies here. If you
She
go to
she
night school,
literally
pay your tuition.
she she literally she literally uh basically made people lose their heads over him.
Yeah. Baby crazy, as we like to say, right? I mean, she wasn't 30, but she was.
Because even he said that he's like when you're at the diner, she's like, I'm pregnant. He's, oh, I was wondering why you're acting crazy.
He did say that, and he said it with no malice. Actually,
Yes,
he's like, "Oh, that explains it."
yes. So
Yeah, no. Well, again, what I like about this film is another way of saying it is that it seems like the people were really trying to make the role seem legit and not cornball goofy. And I appreciate that. I respect that. And I think in that how they did it, they were successful, and that's why I think it's a good film. And if you like the Italian films that have a little bit of sexuality and flair and you know color schemes to them and all that, this is like that. I wouldn't say it's not necessarily as graphic as some of the other stuff that's out there, but it's graphic enough where it's just not you know, Friday the 13th, let's say, or Halloween, or those types of slasher
well,
films.
Friday the 13th was probably the best. The first one was probably the best out of all of them. The other ones was just get the point where it's just like this sense of killing. It was just because you're all your territory, you're my territory. I'm gonna kill all you. It's like, dude, if you have personal vendetta against the things, the people that wronged you, if they're still alive, you already but they're not alive anymore. So it's like, okay, you just become anybody who goes on this land decides to be a counselor, you're automatically dead. I was like, what? I mean, I didn't really watch the Halloween stuff, but I mean, I know her brother was crazy and like a cult baby, or not a cult baby, but that was a remake origin they did for him
Hmm.
in was it six? Yeah, which I thought made much more sense than the rest of them. Believe me. Uh, Maybe you might disagree, maybe, but I don't know. It's like these movies. You got to have a plot. You got to have. I mean, and it has to make sense. Well, why you're killing people? Not just because you're killing because you're having fun. And like, because like the professor said in this movie, uh, man kills me. Oh, because he was trying to say that we're all beasts. We're primal rage. Like, well, I'm thinking like, well, and then like the cop said like, well, guess what? Man only has a reason why they kill.
Yeah, and
You know?
Rachel Ward's performance, and thinking about what you just said, is like she's on the screen, not necessarily a little and not necessarily a lot, but just I think the right amount, and she's very emotional in it, and it makes sense if you go back and think about it that the entire time this killing's been going on, she's pregnant. Child. She knows it, and she's gonna have her ups and downs and everything too. And there's a scene where she's crying. There's other things too, and it doesn't come across as like, oh my God, she's hysterical, and you're rolling your eyes or any of that stuff. You're just going, yeah, she's just upset. She seemed like she generally cared about the relationship she was having with the professor. And of course, having a baby, we know why, but it seemed like he kind of cared for her too. She was
The,
probably just next, but
the thing
he'd
was
been
though,
around.
if dude, if she wasn't the killer, it would have been like, oh, she's a typical bride, being crazy, crying.
Yeah.
But the fact that she's a killer, you didn't say that.
Well, it's like I say, there's worse out there, much worse out there. This is not bad. So night school with young Rachel Ward, Thorn Birds, Against All Odds, a few other things too. Yeah, pretty neat. But yeah, it's not campy and goofy. Therefore, it's not what I would call comedy horror or any of those slash things. No, it's a legitimate horror. It's more probably thriller, but definitely a horror element to it. That's why
Yeah,
it's here on
I
the
would,
Two
I,
Extreme Horror Show.
I would say thriller
Yeah,
more.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's what.
Almost erotic thriller. Yeah, it's nice. It's not bad. Ed, you might like it too. So Ed, one of these days, I want to hear what stuff you've seen that you haven't seen, what you've liked, and all that too, because I know there's a few things to think about checking out, and I'm always curious what's your thing to it. All right, for the doctor, I'd like to say thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for spreading the word. I'm curious to see. It might be April Fools, April 1st, coming up, that we hit 500 subs. We've been picking up a bunch lately, in batches. Obviously, the coronavirus is going on, so we're going to continue Contagion Week with some other selections coming up over the next week or so, and we'll see what happens with that too. So, Doctor, thank you for streaming off of the dairy farm there in central Wisconsin.
And I'll just say quickly, who knows? We get down with the sickness one of these days in the reviews.
That's not acceptable, Doctor. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Stay extreme.
Stay healthy and wash your hands.
Sing happy birthday while you do it. Good night.